From the beautiful Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, this is the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. We take questions from anyone in the dental profession and discuss what it takes to win not only in dentistry, but in life. Business, leadership, relationships, parenting, health and wellness, money management, nothing is off limits on the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. I'm Jason Tenori, your host, and have over 20 years of experience to pull from. Learn from my mistakes and let me help you collapse time so you can become the best version of yourself. Yo, Dr. Jason, Dental Lighthouse Podcast. Happy Thursday. A lot of stuff going on. And I'm outside. It's just too nice in upstate New York to be inside. And the reason I'm saying that I'm outside is because it's a little windy. And sometimes I get yelled at, not so much by you guys, but by Kenzie, by my assistant, and Steve, my editor, because the quality of the audio isn't what they want it to be. So I'm going to apologize in advance. It's one of those things where I'm going to beg for forgiveness instead of ask permission. I should probably go inside so the wind is not howling behind me, but I am not going to do that. What else is going on? So dealing with a little bit of a leg injury. Some of you guys that work with me one-on-one and in our group coaching platform are aware of this. I just have been a little bit slower to respond to things. I've been going to a handful of doctor's appointments, had an MRI, doing some stupid stuff with a deadlift bar. And now I have either a partial tear, a full tear, or some type of pinched nerve phenomenon going on with my left leg. It is what it is. It sucks to get old. But like I put in the newsletter and on Facebook and LinkedIn earlier today, sometimes I need to be hurt in order to remind myself how grateful I am when I'm healthy. So if you haven't read that part of the newsletter yet, check it out. And I think it's a really good reminder for all of us that when we wake up and we're actually got a good night's sleep and we feel good and we feel rested, or we don't have a cold, or, we're not sore, sometimes we just kind of bypass it and we don't really think about it. But man, it feels really, really good to be healthy. And when we're not healthy, it kind of reminds us about how grateful we should be when we are healthy. So that's kind of what I'm going through. Kind of following the whole win or learn mindset. I'm learning that I need to be more grateful for my health, my physical health, my emotional health, my mental health, my financial health, my spiritual health. I shouldn't have to be sick in order to realize how grateful I am during the healthy times. So it's a good reminder for me. Anyways, I wanted to kind of just do some ramblings today. I released a podcast about maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago talking about the 10 foundational principles that I truly believe in, that I use as the core of running my own organization, that I use as the core of my coaching, both my one-on-one and my group coaching. And the feedback I've gotten from that podcast has been quite remarkable. A number of people texting me and emailing me, expressing appreciation for that, and giving them a framework of things to think about. And it's one of those things where you think about something so much. I do this with my wife all the time, right? So you ever think about something so much in your own mind, you kind of fall asleep thinking about it, you wake up thinking about it, and you almost fool yourself you almost lie to yourself. And then well, I definitely have communicated this to my wife or to my kids or to my significant other. And then I say to her, Kara, I already told you that. And she looks at me and she's like, you did not tell me that, Jason. You may have been telling me that in your mind, but you didn't actually come out and tell me that. And I'm like, oh shit, maybe I didn't. And sometimes I feel, and that happens a lot to me. Anyways, it's a different podcast episode, but sometimes I feel that way about these foundational principles. I think about them all the time. I'm constantly thinking about them as I'm running meetings at work, as I'm doing one-on-ones, as I'm doing coaching. And sometimes I realize that because I'm consumed with them all the time, that just means that everyone else is consumed with them. And that's really not the case. So it's been a good reminder for me to over communicate. As you heard me say, Patrick Lencioni is chief reminding officer. And his job is to just remind his organization about these core principles. So I've kind of done the same thing myself. After I released this podcast and after I got the feedback from so many people that were like, thank you so much for unpacking that, I've gone back into my group coaching platform, and every week we meet as a group on Fridays. And I've been spending the first 10 or 15 minutes kind of unpacking one of these foundational principles. And I want to talk about one of them today, in relation to a one-on-one client I have from New Jersey who's just a stud. He's come so far in, I think, the 6 months or so that I've been working with him. Just purchased a third location, really getting his numbers dialed in. And one of the goals, as most of you know, I always start off the relationship. I shouldn't say always, but most of the time I start off the relationship with vision work. And one of his goals as part of his vision work was to go from 4 days to less. And we actually have him. He started this week transitioning to 2 clinical days, which leaves him with some great opportunities for non-clinical time, or what we traditionally call CEO time. And if I had a dime for every time I got asked this question, I'd be a rich man. The question is, what am I supposed to do with my CEO time? And there's so many different answers to that question based on where an individual is in their own journey, where they want to go from a vision perspective, what type of growth aspirations do they have, either top line or bottom line. So I can't cover everything in this recording, but I will kind of cover how I answered him. And I think it's an 80-20 principle, whereas the answer to that I gave to him will be relevant for a majority of you. So the first thing I think you really need to do is create clarity around your CEO time. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but this ties into the ideal week principle. It's been a foundational principle that has been instrumental in my life. And this client actually started to echo that because he's no longer up till 1 a.m. doing things and blowing up his leadership team after hours via text messages and stuff like that, because we ultimately decided how many hours per week he was going to work, total, clinical and non-clinical. And then in that non-clinical time, we're in the process of deciding where he's going to have strategic meetings. And just getting him to the mindset of stop thinking that everything is so unbelievably urgent, where as soon as this thought comes into your head, you have to get on Slack or GroupMe or your phone or your email and message your office manager, your operations person about it. If you have a cadence of regular meetings, throw it in your phone and your note screen and then bring it up at the meeting. You are able to get so much more accomplished when it's part of an agenda of a meeting that's getting recorded, that's developing action items from the meeting notes, than when you lose 20 minutes when you should be, having dinner with your family or on the couch watching a show with your wife, and you're kind of going back and forth with your lead hygienist about some perio protocol idea that just popped into your brain. So all of that goes away when you have an ideal week dialed in and you have an ideal meeting cadence with all of these key people in your organization. But anyways, the question always is, what do I do with my CEO time? And again, from an 80-20 perspective, here are some things that I think you should consider. The first thing that I would ask you to do during CEO time is reviewing of the vision, because if you just put your head down and work, but you don't remind yourself where you're supposed to go, then you can get really far off course, or you can start to do things that are not in line with where you want to go. So it doesn't have to be rocket science. I don't need a 10-page document on your vision, but have a idea in 3 years. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to be from a revenue perspective, from a EBITDA perspective, from a number of employees, number of treatment rooms, number of locations. This is how many hours I want to work. This is how many hours I don't want to work. This is what I want to make. Get it dialed in. We have a very, very simple Google form that I can share with you guys. If you need help kind of cultivating this, you reach out to me. My contact info is on the website, thedentallighthouse.com. But once you have this vision in line, when you have your CEO time, sit down and make sure that you're dialed in and you're trending in that direction. And there's little granular things that you're going to have to do. So for example, if you're currently a solo dentist and your vision by the end of this year is to hire an associate, and you go to say 3 days a week, then one of the granular things that you should be doing during your CEO time is cultivating a job ad, and having a cadence of pinging prospective associates on what they need and the possibility of coming to work for your organization and stuff like that. You can't just wait and just all of a sudden, when this deadline is next week, be like, oh shit, I should probably start to interview associates. Like it's something that you need to start doing on a regular basis. You need to start creating a funnel of candidates. So when the right one does come across your desk, you jump on it. And that's not something where you should wait till the end of the year and be like, oh man, I committed to myself that I would do this by the end of the year. And here we are in December. It's something that you should dedicate a little bit of time every time you sit down for CEO time, and do it. And for me, it was coming up with the ideal avatar of what I wanted an associate to be. It was getting a job ad together. It was getting a pre-contract available, putting an FAQ document together. So when I got standard questions from associates, I knew how to answer them, or I could send them this document. And then it was me developing a black book, so to speak, or a contact list of these prospective associates, and then ultimately reaching out to them every couple of weeks or once a month and just seeing how they're doing and if they needed anything. And, I'm available to talk when they're ready and stuff like that. And when you give yourself some leeway or some lead time, and you do this during your dedicated CEO time, you start to develop this flywheel of momentum that causes you to have a funnel of prospective associates. Now we're blessed in our organization, we have 22 doctors, and I have 3 or 4 that I would love to hire. I just don't have room for them. So they're kind of just waiting on the bench, and you'll get to that point, right? But you got to put in the work, and the work kind of unearths itself when you start to look at your vision. So if your vision is what I just unpacked, an associate, then you have to do that work. If your vision is to expand your facility size, right? Let's say you're in 4 ops or 5 ops and you ultimately want to be a 2 or 3 doctor practice, then start putting in the work to figure out how to get to that 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 operatory practice. Meet with contractors, meet with your landlord, dedicate 15 to 20 minutes to looking at real estate opportunities. Educate yourself on the build out expenses of a build out. But again, don't just wait. Don't just have this pipe dream and be like, oh yeah, it would be super cool to have a 12 operatory facility, and then forget about it for 6 months. And then you kind of revisit it again. So those are 2 specific things, bigger facility, bringing on an associate, but it's all kind of gets wrapped up in this vision or who you are trying to identify as. And not to get off on a tangent or down a rabbit hole, but I truly believe that, and those of you guys that took my servant leadership course know this, I truly believe that you need to have four, five, six identities of who are you striving to be, both at work and at home, right? Both professional and let's call it non-professional. What type of spouse are you trying to be? What type of dad are you trying to be? What type of business owner or entrepreneur are you trying to be? What type of dentist are you trying to be? What type of friend are you trying to be? Um, have clarity with what that looks like. And then when you do have your CEO time and you can review that, it can be very clear of like, okay, I'm trending in the right direction here because I've done this, this, and this, or I'm not trending in the right direction. So I need to do this, and do this. So that's where I would start. Who are you trying to become? Who are you trying to identify as? What does that person look like? What do they need to do on a regular basis to have that come to fruition? So that's one of the first things. What else can you do during your CEO time? Well, one of the things that, in my opinion, are obvious, but I find this surprises a lot of people is reviewing your scorecard. Now we use two scorecards. We use a monthly scorecard, otherwise known as a cash flow statement in my coaching world, or a P&L from your accountant. Ideally, you're getting that at least monthly. If your accountant is giving you this statement quarterly, then you need to ask for it monthly. And if they say monthly is overkill, you need to find another accountant. But looking at numbers, P&L, cash flow analysis statement once a month, and having clarity with each line item on this statement, on this report, on this scorecard. So just a couple, I'm not going to go through every single line item, but just to go through a couple that you should be looking at. What was your projected adjusted production for the month? And projected adjusted production should be what you expect to do on an hourly basis or on a daily basis, extrapolated over how many hours or how many days you're going to work that month. And did you actually do that? So if your plan is I should be able to do $5,000 a day as you as a practitioner, and you worked 20 days in a given month, which is way too many, but just to keep the math simple, then I hope you did $100,000. That's what you were projected to do. If you didn't, start to ask yourself questions. Why wasn't I able to do what I was projected to do? Same thing with hygiene. If your hygienists are projected to do $1,500 or $1,700 or $2,000 a day, how many days are they working that month? How many hygiene days do you have? What is your hygiene department projected to do? So you come up with a number. So the first thing I'm asking myself is, okay, for the month of July or August, we were projected to do 150,000, 250,000, whatever it is. And you either did it, and if you did it, high fives all around, or you didn't do it. And if you didn't do it, then you need to start asking questions. What happened? Why wasn't I able to hit my projection? Now, it could be anything from maybe I didn't present enough treatment. Maybe my case acceptance was too low. Maybe I had cancellations and no-shows fall out of the schedule. Whatever the reason is, you start to peel back the onion and say, I didn't hit this projection because of ... And now I start to solve for that problem. Because no one's going to ask these questions and solve for these problems better than you. And this is what you should be. This is one of the first things that you should be doing during your CEO time. So again, adjusted production projection. If you go down this P&L or this cash flow statement, some other things that you should be looking at. Dental supply bill. What is your goal? Where were you at? Are you at goal? If so, high five. If you were not at goal, ask questions. Lab bill, same thing. So just write down the line, right? And if it's a cash flow statement like we preach in our coaching platforms, you start to take taxes into the equation. You start to take debt into the equation. How much money did you have left at the end of the month? Was that what you were projected to have? If so, high fives. If not, ask questions. So the next thing I like to do during my CEO time is look at the weekly scorecard. So we just talked about the monthly scorecard, or again, what we call a cash flow analysis or a P&L. What's the weekly scorecard? Now, some of you that have been working with me for a long time have weekly scorecards that you can always dial in and look at. Some of you don't. And I've done podcasts on weekly scorecards, so go back and listen to them. But have a dialed in weekly scorecard, have it be dialed into what you're trying to accomplish. And if things are trending in the wrong direction or you're continually below goal, what an opportunity to learn, what an opportunity to ask questions. So a couple basic ones, we always talk about production, collections, new patients, blah, blah, blah. But some other ones that I think could move the needle a little bit is call answer rate. What is your call answer rate? What is your goal? What is it currently? If it's at goal, awesome. High fives all around. If it's not at goal, ask questions. Are you trying to do more Invisalign? Well, how many cases did you present? If your goal is to present 5 cases a week and you look back at the last 2 or 3 weeks and you've only presented 5 total, one last week, 2 the week before, ask questions. Why is that? It could be that you're being rushed in hygiene. It could be because you don't have any marketing pieces on the wall that talk about how you're an Invisalign provider. It could be because your hygienists don't have clarity on the benefits of an Invisalign besides the vanity aspect of it. Like, again, I don't know, but no one's going to know the answer unless you are asking the question. And you're not going to ask the question unless you're looking at data as a laboratory technician, well, not dental technician, but as a scientist would look at the data and not having an opinion one way or the other, but looking at the data and saying, that's suspicious or that's funny. Why is that? And then you start to go down the rabbit hole of trying to unearth why that data point is where it's at, why you didn't hit your adjusted production projections, why your dental supply bill is 2% over what your goal is, why you were hoping to present 10 Invisalign cases last week, but you only presented 2, why your new patient number was at 12 for the week and you were aiming for 15. Why, just why. And then again, you may have the answers, but as you've heard me say before, I want you to be curious. I want you to maybe have what you think the answer could be. But then when you meet with your team, your office manager, your leads, your associate doctor, people that you trust, people that you bounce ideas off of, your own coach, ask questions. Why do you think this is? Well, I don't know. Let's ask some more questions. So let's use new patients as an example. My new patient goal is 15 per week and we've been averaging 10. Why is that? Well, a lot of docs just right away say, well, I must need to spend more on marketing, but they don't, and they go ahead and spend more on marketing, right? But a better strategy is to just ask more questions. Why? So some of the questions that I would be asking is, well, when is your next available new patient appointment? Well, if it's 3 weeks out, then your new patient numbers are going to be down because patients want to get in within the next 10 days. Now, again, depending on your philosophy of practice and what have you. Another question is, how many leads are we losing because we're not answering the phone? Do you know that information? Another question is, how many leads are we losing because we have someone who's answering the phone that doesn't know what they're talking about? When's the last time you listened to recorded phone calls? Something else you can do on your CEO time. So again, with this, we can go 100 different directions with this, but really what I was trying to unpack here is, what are the foundational principles? Go back and listen to that podcast. There's 10 of them. And one of the foundational principles that I really just wanted to unpack today, based on my coaching call with this stud dentist from New Jersey, is he's going from 4 clinical days to 2 clinical days. And what 2 foundational principles are associated with that? Well, one is vision, because when we started working together, he specifically told me that that's what he wanted to do. And now that he's there, the question is, what do I do with that time? So there's hundreds of things that you can do. But if you're really clueless, if you're sitting down at your desk for the first time and you're like, okay, I have now this newfound CEO time, what should I be doing with it? A really, really, really good place to start is review your vision, or more specifically, who are you trying to become as an entrepreneur, as a clinical dentist, as a boss, as a spouse, as a father, as a philanthropist, as a friend, as someone in the health and wellness space. Who are you trying to become? And are you doing the things specifically to get to that point? And then the next thing I would encourage you to do is to look at cash flow analysis, or P&Ls. And the next thing I would consider you to do is to look at a weekly scorecard. That will keep you busy, right? And that will move the needle. And there's dozens of other things that you can do. We can talk about one-on-ones. We can talk about meeting cadences. We can talk about developing relationships with banks and stuff like that. And those are all important, but 80% of the stuff that you could be doing or should be doing, I just unpacked for you. So hope that helps. If you need any help with that, don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information is on the website, dentallighthouse.com. Go back and listen to that Foundational Principles podcast. Oh, and I have been asked to be better about asking for reviews, podcast reviews. So following the Dave Ramsey mindset, if you love the material that I've been blessed to share with you guys, then please leave us a 5-star review. If you hate the material that I'm sharing with you guys, please do not leave a 1-star review, but go listen to another podcast. There's a lot of podcasts in the dental space. I'm not for everybody. I just try to be really sincere and honest and real. And if that is of value to you, then please take a minute to leave a 5-star review. I would really appreciate it. And it would help me kind of reach my goals of really trying to be a voice for the docs out there that, are growing, but just are struggling with how to do it, and have lots of questions about leadership and systems and vision and principles. And just, I would love for my message to get to more people. And by you leaving me a 5-star review, that can happen. So if you like the material, if you like the content, please do that for me. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Like I said, always reach out. If you have any questions or concerns, I'm always here for you guys. And that's it. Love you.
Thank you. That wraps up another episode of the Dental Lighthouse podcast. You have a choice today. Choose to be a lighthouse. Lighthouses are powerful and steadfast. They are beacons of light for others to reference when life gets turbulent. Go out into the world today and become a lighthouse for someone. Give more than you get. True joy comes from serving others. Start today. I'm Jason Tenori, your host. Thank you for listening to the Dental Lighthouse podcast. For more information, podcast show notes, or links to anything that we have discussed today, please check out our website, thedentallighthouse.com. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to get on the show, please email us at podcast@thedentallighthouse.com.